This episode of Local Film Talk was recorded in the Green Room at Natty Green's in downtown Raleigh. Perfect for business meetings or just joining friends to watch the big game, the Green Room is the ideal place to host your next event. To learn more, contact David Crack at 919-232-2477 or email david at nattygreens.com. Welcome to another episode of Local Film Talk. We're here again in the Green Room at Natty Green's. We're talking to Kieran Moreira and Andrew Martin, and they are the guys who brought us the short film Harbinger. So tell us a little bit, first of all, how you guys got started. How did you get into, I guess, when did you first decide that you wanted to be filmmakers?
Well, for the film, we all worked at Drawbridge Media, and our boss at the time told us that we needed to go out and find some content to create a film or create some narrative content.
What kind of stuff did Drawbridge normally do?
So Drawbridge is a production company in Raleigh, and they do commercial and corporate video. But we're all filmmakers, and we've all done our own projects. And so this was the first time that we wanted to do it as a company.
Okay.
So our boss Kevin Wild told us, let's start creating content together. And so he tasked us with reading scripts. And so we went out on the internet and we read scripts and we tried to find something that we wanted to produce, and ultimately decided, let's make something together that we made, that we created. So we started having these monthly brainstorming sessions, and we started talking about ideas. So that was kind of the initial thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was kind of the beginnings of Harbinger, but long before that, I guess, getting started as a filmmaker. I mean, I think I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker in high school, but I didn't know that that was a real thing. Like, I don't know if I led a sheltered life or whatever, but I didn't know that that's what people did for a living. It took me a while to figure that out. So I went to NC State for an engineering degree. That's what I ended up going to college for.
Okay.
And so it wasn't until I was about halfway through school that I was like, no, wait, I want to be a filmmaker. But I had to decide if I wanted to start over in my curriculum or just finish. So I ended up graduating with an engineering degree and having a lot of film classes. Got a job at a video store, and then got an internship with a corporate video company here in Raleigh.
Oh, okay.
And they liked me enough to bring me on when I graduated, and I learned how to edit, and I learned how to direct, and I had already knew how to write a little bit. And
Cool.
so been doing corporate videos and commercials for the past 15 years, always with the eye towards making films, and been trying to do that ever since.
You gotta start somewhere. You gotta make that journey.
Well, and you got to learn the technical side of it, and you've got to make a living at the same time. It's
Right.
easy to say you're going to be a filmmaker. It's harder to be a professional filmmaker. So it was trying to balance both worlds.
Yeah, your ideas are not going to look that good if you don't know the technical end of it, so you got to put in that time.
Precisely.
So did you go to school for filmmaking?
I went to school at NC State as well, and
Okay.
I studied film studies, and it was kind of like Drew. I didn't even think that this was something I could do. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, and I didn't want to do that. So I ended up taking an intro to film class just
Okay.
kind of randomly, and I fell in love with it. And I was like, I want to make this a career. And by my senior year, I had taken all the classes, and I was actually skipping class to go work on set and do production and work on local productions. And that's actually how I met Andrew. Was I just happened to PA on a short film and ended up connecting with him and eventually working with him 2 or 3 years later. So
Cool. So I take it both of your first projects were commercial projects, right? Not narrative stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I had
Working
been
as
writing
PA.
I had been writing a couple screenplays in high school and college, but my first on-set experience was doing corporate videos and commercials.
yeah, same. It's before even you're in the industry, you're kind of wanting to write and create. You don't really know, you don't have the skills and the whereabouts, but so the first time you're on set is on a commercial set, and
Right.
you kind of understand the technical side. You figure out what everyone's job is, and you're like, okay, I can apply this to filmmaking.
So you guys started out doing working on commercials and stuff, I assume as PAs and everything. What were some early lessons you learned just kind of working on these sets, seeing how people were doing it, especially in a business setting for corporate videos? When you're doing commercials, it's a lot more strict and less free-flowing. So what kind of lessons did you learn there?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming out of a theory background, you quickly throw all that stuff out the window and say, all right, there's only so much time, there's only so many ways you can pull this off. So you become very conscious of what's realistic versus what is was in your head originally, and learning how to compromise and improvise and still walk away with the stuff you need. And then learning what types of personalities you want on set. To me, a set is driven by the personalities of the cast and crew more so even than their skills, and so you want to make sure you have the right types of people working with you when you're making your film.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I also came from a theory background, and so when I got thrown on set, it was kind of chaotic. It was like, I don't know how to do an under-over wrap. Like, I don't know how to wrap a wire correctly. I don't know how to, strike this light. So it was kind of getting thrown into it, and then realizing that there's a lot more of a technical side that you have to master to really bring the creative, later on.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess you guys met together working at a production company, and you said you've been out of school and at this for about 15 years. When did you graduate?
I graduated from NC State in 2011.
Okay.
But I started freelancing, roughly around senior year, and so I worked in some reality television, which is pretty popular around here, and obviously worked on a short film that I met Drew on, and then started working on commercial sets. And it was then I started making films on my own, and of course meeting Drew, was fantastic because I think we have very similar ideas, and so that was a very natural partnership that we kind of formed in writing Harbinger.
It's really good to find people you can work together with that are kind of on the same wavelength. So how do you get into that kind of stuff? Were there certain websites, or were there internship programs through the school?
Totally. So I was fortunate enough to get some internships in college, and so I worked at one local production company here, and that was kind of my foot in the door. And you really have to start out being a production assistant, basically being the good person that's the gopher, and you have to go get coffee, and so you have to work your way up. But that's how you meet people. And the great thing about the Triangle is that there are this really tight-knit group of people that once you know them, and you're able to network and form those relationships later on.
And I'm not sure when it started, but the scene has really taken off. I'm constantly discovering new companies that I didn't even know were out there. I mean, everybody knows like Centerline and Myriad and Blue Forest, all those guys and everything. But I run into places like Drawbridge, and there's one that's actually just across the street from here that I got an email from a guy there. I'm like, I had no idea there was a production company there. So they're springing up all over the place, and it's cool to see that there's that many opportunities in the area.
Yeah, the market has certainly grown a lot since I started, and more people are moving here from other cities, and they're bringing their talents here. I mean, it's good, and I think particularly for us, we want to see the filmmaking side of it grow. I mean, the corporate and commercial thing is great, and it's really important, but the filmmaking...
It's good to have a place to learn.
It's good. Well, it's essential, I think, because I don't think many people get a chance to learn through making films unless they're doing it on their own, and they may learn a lot of bad habits that way.
Exactly.
So you got to have both things going on, and now that we've sort of been in that world, we want to expand it to more of a filmmaking industry here as well.
Right. So how did you guys you meet doing the various commercial works? How did you find your way to Drawbridge?
I found my way to Drawbridge, I guess about 4 or 5 years ago. I had been with Centerline for about 8 years, and then was freelance for a little while, and I met Kevin Wild while he was also at Centerline. So we're all incestuous in our sort of different jobs, but yeah, Kevin and I became friends, and he had a small company, and he needed somebody to come in and produce and kind of manage the office and sort of help take the creative projects to the next level. So he brought me on for that. And even from the very first day, I was like, well, we're here to make movies, right? That's what we're here to do. And he was like, of course, yeah, absolutely, because that's what he got into this business for as well. And so even though we're always looking at the bottom line, are we going to keep the business going? Hey, can we also start working on this film project?
You got to pay the bills so you can do the other stuff.
Exactly, yeah. My very first day at work, I shot a film noir test shoot, just because I wanted to, and he was cool with it. So yeah, I went into that company going, we're going to make films. We're also going to make commercials, but we're going to make films.
Yeah. So that was how long ago that you guys ended up over there?
So I got there 09, something like that. 10 maybe. Anyway, but yeah, so I was there 4 or 5 years ago. Kieran came on 2, 3 years ago. 3 years ago now. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I knew Kieran from a short film we did called Dance for One, and I think you reached out to me asking if we had any internship opportunities, and I said he would be a great person to bring on. I made him inventory all our equipment and clean out our van and do all these other things. And
yeah, you have to do the grunt work.
yeah, I was like, hey, this is great. I got somebody to do all this stuff.
That's how you get the experience.
Yeah.
But he quickly proved himself and was a full-time employee in a very short amount of time.
Cool.
Yeah. Drawbridge was a really interesting company, and not only because of Drew, but because of like the equipment they had. They had the red cameras, which I was really interested in, and so I wanted to get my hands on that and work with the red and make films as well. So that was great.
Yeah.